You're listening to Co-op Radio 100.5 FM and coopradio.org. It's 5 o'clock and it's Metis Matters Radio time!
Given by the individual hosts and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of the CFRO 100.5 FM, your cooperative radio network, its affiliates, and or sponsors.
Hey, Touch Q. Thank you, everybody, for joining me on Metis Matters Radio on the CFRO 100.5 FM. And yes, I am here, beautiful downtown Surrey. Yeah, I'm here up in British Columbia, Vancouver, BC. And thank you guys for joining me in the Facebook chat room as well as the YouTube chat room. We are making this thing rock, and have been busy for me, big time. So we have a lot to talk about this evening, and looking forward to chatting with everybody. It has been a long week. I changed my glasses. It's been a long week, and there's lots to talk about. I guess I'd say there's a lot. And well, to start off, we have had so many people talking about the actually here in British Columbia, or actually here in Surrey. A few days ago, one of our churches got burnt down, and right in the middle of Surrey, in the Newton region. And this is getting to be too close to home now, because now they're going after every territory. And here's the thing, folks, and I will be honest with you. Most of the time, the churches we're seeing being burnt down are not being burnt down by Indigenous people. These are recorded. They actually have cameras on the street. They're non-Indigenous people that are burning these things down, burn church down. So they are. I strongly feel. I don't know what's going on, but I don't really like what I'm seeing or hearing. I got a feeling that this is what they're trying to do, is to I guess, get us to start a fight and a war with the government and to say that, that why are we the ones doing it? And that gets to be too much. So I'm really trying to, I guess to say, dishearten or trying to separate the sadness and the emotional issues that people are placing out there. I mean, I know a lot of First Nations people that I've known for many years. There's families everywhere. I don't see them actually planning on when to burn churches. In fact, they're actually telling everybody not to burn the churches. And then you got some non-Indigenous people on these chat rooms that I've seen. A few of them, and they actually turn around and say, "Burn them down." No, I mean, why? If you're not going to go, if you don't go to church, then why are you encouraging people to burn down the church? Like, why are you, if you're a person that doesn't want, if you have nothing to do with the churches, you're not supporting us. You just like to look for trouble, and that's incriminating. Like, basically, that's not cool. As far as I'm concerned, that is very wrong. I mean, what these people are trying to do is looking for, I guess they're trying to get people to get all riled up and start wars. And yeah, that's not really good. So the thing is that I'm trying to point out, folks, is that we all need to start to get along. And so it's important that we all understand we need to be more civil about this. And I know, as we speak right now, I can tell you right now, there are more ground penetrating radars going to every residential school site, and there's well over 300 of them now. What I understand, what I was sent, they've already found so far well over 2,000 more. And if there's over 2,000 more, then it's getting to be too much. Like, getting to be scary, because now, like I said before, I wouldn't put it past that we'll be looking at least 70 to 100,000 children that will be found unmarked graves, because they're just getting started. And also, what I've been reading about, and a few people are sharing, I understand a lot of the First Nations and even the chiefs are trying to speak up, and they're trying to say, well, not all the children were actually part of residential school, and there were unmarked graves that were in the area. But here's what gets me. If those children were part of the unmarked grave or not part of the unmarked graves, then why are they in the same region? And I'm going to say this, why were they buried in the same region as the rest of the residential school children of their unmarked graves? Why are they buried next to them or in the same region? Unless they already knew that they're there. Now, I'm not trying to discredit the chiefs and the areas. I'm just, no disrespect, but this is getting to be too suspicious. I know there are people out there that are trying to defend the churches and say, no, they didn't do this, or I don't think they would have done that. People have actually said, I got married there, I was baptized there. That's fine. And, that's a loss of memory. But the thing is, like, now it's getting closer to home, because now here in the Surrey region, and I know there's here in British Columbia, they're starting to burn the churches, and they had started to burn a church. They actually burnt one down to the ground. And I'll bring that story editorial up with you right now. But I thought I would do is to share one of the, I guess to say, an editorial, and I wanted to swing it into our page. I can only do it for Facebook, but I will say this, that the Dalmas Indian Residential School in Saskatchewan, they were showing a video off of CBC of the ground penetrating radar going across the land. They're actually putting in markers, so very well they're finding them. So, and a lot of the elders and the people in the community are sitting under chairs and benches and watching while they're doing this. So it is ongoing. And like they also said too, they're not waiting for any more governments to give them any answers or to help out. They don't want. I mean, the government's not even trying to help out. They are not. They have no care. The government does not care and in fact, even Trudeau is not even responding back about anything. He's not even wanting to help. Okay. Justin Trudeau, PM Trudeau does not want to help us uncover those kids. They don't. None whatsoever. His intentions has nothing to do. He doesn't want nothing to do with this. He will play the role, get on bended knee, and say, "Oh, those poor kids," and that's it. Okay. Even Premier Bennett, she's also in deep trouble because even she sarcastically, racially commented. And now, like this, our government is getting really agitated, or getting to be causing us agitation. People want answers, and they're not saying a word. They're avoiding us. So the only thing I would say for all of us to do is to carry on doing what we're doing. We do best, and to find our relatives, our sisters and our brothers, our cousins, our aunties, and some people that we did not see or could not find. And most of the story really is, if you think about it, folks, even though these kids were buried, if there were ones that were buried under unmarked graves, these are the ones that never ever told their children or their families that these kids went missing. They haven't. All the editorials and readings and emails I'm getting from people are saying they have not even notified the family that child's missing. None whatsoever. That's basically they're abandoned. Like, that's abandonment. That's not saying anything. So what's happening right now is that the public want results. I mean, yes, like I said before earlier, some of the chiefs and some of the reserves are saying, yes, some of the kids were buried on unmarked graves. They themselves knew something about it or did know about it. Our government already knew there were unmarked graves, and they've been going on for years. They already knew about it, but they did not bother to even respond. And it's getting to be monotonous. I mean, you will begin to find out later, and a lot of us out there will find out later, what we can do. We have done many ceremonies. We have gathered for so many people. I did a video in respect of our 215 children from the very beginning, the very first territory in Kamloops, Indigenous territory in Kamloops, where these kids were found. We did a ceremony for them from all over the lands. We gathered. Now we're in the 2000s plus, and it's growing. There's more people saying there's more coming. Anytime anybody says there's being churches burning down, I wonder what kind of evidence is inside that they want to burn the church down. Because they're not just burning churches for the spite of burning the church. There got to be something inside there that possibly could be hidden away. It could be files, or also even the furnaces. You never know. And this is getting to be a continuous problem. And our world is falling apart like crazy because, we're dealing with the COVID times right now, all of us. And now we're dealing with this. I mean, everything is being exposed. Really, think about it, folks. Everything's being exposed. Our government's being exposed. For whatever they decide to think that they're going to cover up, they can't. They can't. They can't cover it up anymore. They are being exposed. Now, mind you, the politicians that we have today did not have anything to do with it at the beginning. But there should be a responsible government to respond back and to say, okay, we're going to help you. Even though the ones that previously, earlier years, did not do any due diligence of having to respond. So, okay, we'll do this now. We'll help you. You didn't. They haven't done it yet. I've been looking. There's nothing. There's no programs available for the losses. And most of the people, the communities themselves, their own Indigenous communities, whether it's First Nations, Métis, or Inuit, they're all working together with each other and their families. They're coming together as family to support them, to help them. This is what's happening right now. And it's getting to be crazy. Or crazier, right? Anyways, I thought I'd share that with you folks, and I wanted to let you all know what's going on. And like I said, we're looking into over the 2,000 now, because I've been sending, people have been sending information to me. And there's always, like I said, even recently, we already have a church that got burnt down here in the Surrey region. and we're hoping that doesn't carry on. And also, I have got an editorial, and I want to share that with you folks right now. I think it's important, and that is, let's see here, what I want to bring up. Yeah. So the Surrey Church congregation was heartbroken by devastating the fire, and this is actually written by the Aldergrove Star. The Surrey Church congregation of 250 families is heartbroken after a suspicious fire early Monday morning destroyed their St. George Coptic Orthodox Church in Whalley. Now, folks, it's not Catholic. It's a different kind of church, right? Where we are in a state of shock. Morning, Father Vicente, I guess you would say Gerge, said on Tuesday, it's unpredictable that the future will be, and I think he will rent a place. The priest said that their bishop has come to Surrey from Mississauga to help from there can be a start. Now, meanwhile, there's a GoFundMe fundraising campaign. They raised around $8,100 during their first day toward helping rebuild the church, and Gerge is stressed that he is not pointing fingers at who might be responsible. We leave the investigation to authorities. We trust them, he said. It is not for us to say. We leave it to the RCMP and the investigators. It's not up to me. Now, the fire erupted at the church on 108th Avenue, 139th on July the 19th, which a couple of days ago, right? And the Surrey RCMP was called to the scene of 3:17 a.m. Nobody was injured as the church was empty at the time. It happened 5 days after the attempted arson at the church. Now, in which police say the video surveillance footage confirms a woman lit items on fire at the door. Okay. She entered from the gate outside, which is unlocked, and she reported we reported that to the police, and they have the video. She's not indigenous. She's not a white girl, Caucasian. The suspect was described as Caucasian, stands 5'7" inches tall and heavy set with dark hair. The woman was wearing a black hooded sweatshirt and black tank top, all covered up, black tights with a flower print and black flip-flops. Investigators are asking anyone with information related to either this investigation, contact the RCMP. Now, the Surrey RCMP Sergeant Eleanor Sturko said Tuesday, police have no evidence connecting the woman to the second fire. We're saying at this time there is no evidence connecting either of these incidences. So the fire that destroyed the church on the 19th and to the arson to those sort of flowers on the front door, they're both suspicious events and concerning. But at this time, there is no evidence, and they've connected. What they're connected to, but is we do want to find out the identity of that woman who lit the fire on the 14th. So, Mayor Doug McCallum said on Tuesday he was meeting with police and city bylaws staff to go over the situation up there, and it's a terrible situation, especially when there appears to be having been an attempt to do it a week before. Now, it's a serious situation. We need to deal with it to see whether we can get it corrected, he said. It's a very serious thing. When I phoned about it, when the fire, soon after it got started in the morning, 3 a.m. or something, I immediately felt it was a very serious situation. And so we need to work real hard. All of our public safety people, and we'll have to call our new city Surrey police to do the job. Okay, so anyways, that's the Aldergrove store. That's the ones that shared what's going on, and like I said before, this is getting to be crazy. Okay, now coming up, also there is a column, and I'll share this one with you. This editorial. Yeah. Okay. Thank you guys for joining me in the chat room. Those are on Facebook as well as YouTube, and you can find me on YouTube as well. Look for Metis Matters Radio. I'm in there as well. You can't be here defending the residents of schools The opposition leader calls out Manitoba's new Indigenous Relations Minister. Now, it was a tense start for Manitoba's new Indigenous Reconciliation and Northern Relations Minister, who called out publicly by the province's opposition leader over comments he made about the residential schools. PC MLA Alan Lajemontier entered Premier Brian Pallister's cabinet Thursday morning, being sworn in as the new Indigenous Reconciliation and Northern Relations Minister. Lajemontier actually is Métis. The province, he's actually one of my relatives, by the way, my cousin. The province said Lajemontier, who is Métis, has been mandated to develop an agenda for reconciliation in consultation with First Nations, Métis, and Inuit leadership. During his first public appearance, minutes after being sworn in as minister, Lajemontier said of residential schools that he believes at the time they really did think that they were doing the right thing. Listen to that quote. They really did think that they were doing the right thing. From my knowledge of it, the residential school system was designed to take Indigenous children and give them the kind of skills and abilities that they would need to fit into society as it moves forward, Lajemontier said. The comments sparked immediate backlash from the province's opposition leader, and I cannot accept you saying what you just said about residential schools, Manitoba NDP leader Wab Kinew told Lajemontier. It was the express intent of residential schools to kill the Indian in the child. It is not cultural relativism. It is not revisionist history for us to say that what was wrong. Kinew went on to tell Lajemontier that if he is going to take his appointment as the Indigenous Reconciliation and Northern Relations Minister seriously, he has to change his opinion. You can't be out here defending the residential schools if you want to work with Indigenous communities. A since deleted statement posted on Twitter by the PC caucus said it is committed to reconciliation and accused Kinew of political showmanship and bullying for interrupting the new minister. Lajemontier took on the new role after former Indigenous and Northern Affairs Minister Eileen Clark resigned from the role. The resignation came a week after Pallister made comments regarding colonial settlers. In the statement posted on Twitter account, Lajemontier said he misspoke regarding residential schools. As an Indigenous Manitoban, I sincerely believe that residential schools were tragic and were designed to assimilate Indigenous children and eradicate Indigenous culture, and that was wrong then, it is wrong now. Southern Chiefs Organization Grand Chief Jerry Daniels said that he was appalled by Lajemontier's comments. It didn't take long for the new minister to show that where his true loyalties lie. Daniels said in a statement, it only goes to show that this premier and his dwindling base of followers are beyond out of touch and have no business in charge of departments that involve reconciliation with First Nations. It is a concern shared by newly re-elected Grand Chief Arlen Dumas of the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs, who called the comments racist. It is apparent that the new minister has already signaled that nothing will change and will perhaps regress to the detriment of First Nations citizens, Dumas said in the statement. Now, Grand Chief Garrison Setti of the Manitoba Kiwatanawi Okimakanak MKO called Lajemontier's comments appalling and reprehensible and said the Truth and Reconciliation Commission proved the intent of the residential schools was cultural genocide and to kill the Indian and the child. It is shameful that the comments from this minister and premier serve to make light of deaths of thousands of children that have resulted with these institutions and are now being discovered, Setti said in the statement. Any progress at the reconciliation has been set back and may be impossible while this government is in power. And this actually editorial is written from the CTV News of Danton Unger. And this is basically the next editorial right after that. This actually was done July the 16th, which was a few days back. And here we go again. The Manitoba's new Minister of Indigenous Relations has apologized for his comments over residential schools, but now from more voices from within the Pallister government are weighing in on recent controversies. It's been a week since Eileen Clark resigned as Manitoba's Indigenous and Northern Affairs Minister, in part because of the controversial comments made by Premier Pallister about Manitoba's ancestral history. Now, minutes after her replacement, Alan Lagemondier was sworn in Thursday, telling media that he believed the architects of the residential schools thought they were doing the right thing and that schools were meant to teach children skills. Now, these comments prompted immediate backlash from the Manitoba's opposition leader, Wap Kinew, along with a number of Indigenous leaders in the province. Now the Manitoba's Families Minister, Rochelle Squires, has released a statement saying that she wants to live in a country brave enough to accept the awful truth of what happened. Therefore, I am deeply troubled by recent events and comments. I am taking time to reflect, to listen to the dialogue, and come to better understand my own responsibilities towards reconciliation, Squires stated in a statement, while Lagemondier released a statement Thursday saying he misspoke. The new Indigenous Relations Minister issued an official apology on Friday. I would like to offer my sincerest apologies to all Indigenous and non-Indigenous Manitobans and Canadians whom I have offended greatly with my remarks yesterday, Lagemondier said in a statement. I want to acknowledge the words I used to respond to a question about residential schools during my first scrum as the new minister in this very important portfolio were wrong, and I genuinely, sincerely ask for your forgiveness. The apology was backed by a fellow cabinet member, Audrey Gordon, the Minister of Mental Health, Wellness, and Recovery. Well, that doesn't do any good. I stand behind Minister Lagemondier in terms of his comments and his statement that what he said was not what he intended to convey, Gordon said. Leaders outside of the legislature are condemning the remarks and has some, including Winnipeg's mayor, wondering whether Lagemondier will be able to continue as minister. Time will tell, but yesterday certainly wasn't a good day in our efforts to move reconciliation forward, Mayor Brian Bowman said. A since deleted statement released on Twitter by the PC caucus following the confrontation between Kinew and Lagemondier accused the opposition leader of political showmanship and bullying. CTV News requested a comment from the PC caucus as to why the statement was deleted, but has not heard back. Well, anytime anybody deletes a comment, that means they've done something very wrong, right? Because so that's how it, folks. That's how it works, folks. Everybody's out there, and I'm surprised. Lagemondier himself actually is related to Louis Riel. Okay. His relatives, as well as like cousins, they go back because that's Louis Riel's grandparents. I'm very surprised that this man actually is supporting the federal government and saying it's not the government's fault because they tried so hard to keep Indigenous children that way in residential school. That's story. That is a outright stupid answer. And I know very well why they chose this man to take this position as the next Indigenous Relations as a minister for Indigenous Relations. I just can't see it. I don't understand why they chose him, because the way he's responding already in comment, he basically stated, and the way he made a statement, that's more like that he's supporting the government. He's supporting the colonial way. He's not supporting the Indigenous people. When you are representing a Indigenous Relations as a minister, you are supposed to be supporting us, not the colonial side. And that's what he just did. Now, mind you, if he's supposed to be in between and he's supposed to be the relations going like be messenger, Well, he still has to take responsibility because he also made the comment himself. That's what got him in trouble. Wap Canoe knows. Okay? Wap Canoe will not take no crap either. I'm sorry, but those are his words. He is upset. Basically, like I said, this is all to do with residential school kids that were found in unmarked graves. And when Lajemondier basically decides to support the colonial way, the colonial church, and say, well, that's what they tried so hard to teach the kids. No, they didn't try so hard to teach the kids. They took the kids from the reservation. That's not trying. That's called kidnapping. Think about it, folks. Those kids were not just, the kids didn't go like, oh, I want to go to school. They didn't say that. They took them. If the children did not want to go to school, to residential school, they hired the RCMP and other people, and they are the ones that grabbed the kids and hauled them off to the residential school, and they never seen them again. And lucky for them, they actually had one day to go home to their family, maybe Christmas. That's it. The rest of the time, they had to live there. And how they were treated then, that's basically what it is. Mind control, physical control, mental control. That's what happened. This is not your typical common colonial school. Because you do have your Catholic schools. This is a lot of Catholic schools, they go home every day. This one didn't have that. Your Catholic schools and your Anglican schools and your Protestant schools, those are the three, plus probably more different kinds. There's day schools and there's industrial schools. Mine was industrial. But they all related to residential school. They're all the same. And some are called boarding schools. That's the name where it began. It was titled boarding school. And then Canada decided to change and call it a residential school to make it more not so boarding. My best friend Dale Haggerty, his mom went to a boarding school for I think 11 or 12 years, which was still a residential school. They changed it through the years later on, calls it residential school. It was the military that created these. It was a military leader that created these residential schools, boarding schools for Indigenous children, because he wanted to take the red out of the Indian. That was his goal. That's what he stated. The reds coming out of the Indian, we're going to make them like us. But that's forced. Every race, they were going to force. You can't take a black out of the black man. You can't take the Asian out of an Asian man. You can't take the Filipino or any kind of race out of a person to make them colonial. You can't. They will adopt with us if they so choose, but they're still who they are with their own identity. You can't change us. I'm half and half. I mean, I've got more on my father's side, my identity, but there's times that I begin, like there's parts of me look like my other side of my family, the Indigenous side. So everybody's different. Everyone has a choice. So like I said before, it's pretty crazy when it gets to be frustrating. I watch these folks try to, they want to believe that they're in control, but they're not in control. It's just going to be ridiculous. I'm sorry. It saddens me because I've been around it. I was part of the Truth and Reconciliation. I was part of it back in 2008. I was one of the representatives for Truth and Reconciliation for the Indigenous people, for represent the Métis. Been there, done that, seen it. 250 of us came from all across Canada to Health Canada. We actually all gathered at the River Cree Resort in Calgary to make our statements, to tell our stories, and they had healing workshops available. There is all types of programs available for us to sit and to gather and to come up with ideas how we can help our communities. What would be available? The money was supposed to be available for us. $8.3 million. Guess what? Only 1.4, I believe, was only used, and the rest of it was taken back. That's when Harper was in government. And he said that was it. You're only given 5 years to use it, and whatever was left, they took it back. Well, number one, you have 150 years of residential schools, and they're only giving you 5 years to heal. 5 years of indigenous healing programs for residential schools. You tell me what that means. They didn't care, and they still don't care to this day. And I've had people come up to me many times, and I tell them, and I hear the same story all the time. Aren't they over that yet? Try to say it again. Now these children are being found with a GPR. No one's over it now. It's going to get worse before it gets better. I'm not mad. It's frustrating. Okay? It's absolutely frustrating. When you try so hard to help your community, you try so hard to share, and this is my job. This is what I do. I share with the community about what's going on, how things are. That's my job. And there are times I make comments because I know where I'm coming from. If I'm wrong, what I say, I apologize, but I already know I've been there, done that, been in it. But I'm not judging one side only. I'm just pointing out what needs to get fixed. We need to get this fixed. If we have to create another program ourselves and do it and go over the government's head to do it, we'll have to. That's just the way it works. That money was supposed to be left for us, our people from all reserves, to get together all across Canada and put these Turtle Island healing centers together and make them happen. So then people can start working together as communities. But we can't divide apart. We can't push each other away. And I know there's a lot of non-Indigenous people out there that do care about us and they want to participate. They want to help. And I love your support. Absolutely. Because I know, people don't realize too, there have been different varieties of slavery, and I will bring that word up, slavery, and abuse to other races from other countries. And it has existed. Even when the Irish are coming, a lot of times the Irish came from their own country. They actually were trying to run out of they're trying to escape their own country in the earlier years, back in the 1800s, even earlier. They're trying to escape their countries to come to this country because it's called a free country. A free country. You understand the word? Free voice, free thought, free thinking, free country. But when they got here, there were other people, called the English, who treated the Irish like absolute garbage in England. And not one Irish person was ever allowed to own property in Ireland. The British owned that too. They allowed you to stay there, but they controlled you still. So these people escaped their own country. They have to leave their own country, born from there, to come to a country that gives them free thought, free voice. They come to Canada, even the United States. But they come to Canada, and next thing that happens, they get picked on. And people are saying, don't work with them, don't look at them. They're nothing but useless people. We'll make them into slaves here too. And they did. Until some Irish people got smart and said, wait a minute here. This is Canada. It's a free country. This is not our other country. Even though we're under the crown, okay, we're under the crown, but the slavery was not in existence as much for the Irish. But slavery was in existence to the blacks, and as well as Indigenous people. There was slavery here. My grandmother was a slave to a family. So, and it's happened to a lot of people. Then if they couldn't have you for slavery, they want to control you by put you on reservations. They create reservations, and they followed through the idea. Canada followed up creating reservations, and they learned it from the United States. It was the United States that created reservations first. Canada didn't have that. It never existed. Canada adopted it, reservations. Our government, our Canadian government adopted that, hey, we'll control these people. Sure, here, great idea. Let's do this. And they did the same thing back in the early 70s. Africa adopted residential school philosophy in their country. And they took that very same idea and took it to Africa to control the people, the Africans. So it's been going on for all over the world. And it's now, this is 21st century, folks. This is the 21st century. We should be all working together as a community. Our governments are dividing us up again. They're trying to separate us, to not love each other, not to like each other, to keep us apart. No, ain't going to happen. COVID or no COVID, we have to be very supportive and work together with each other in the family, as family. Okay? Anyways, I'm going to be right back, folks. We're going to take a break. And you're listening to Metis Matters Radio on the CFRO 100.5 FM.
Honey.
I really wanted a coffee.
Where are you? You've been there forever.
Come on. You know what? You think you're the boss.
But I'm the boss here. Derrick will be right back after he gets my coffee.
Hi everyone, I'm Derrick Whiteskycloud from Metis Matters Radio. I'm on Wednesday nights at 5 o'clock. Vancouver Cooperative Radio is an innovative non-profit radio station and recording studio with a mission to produce creative and engaging programming for communities whose voices are unrepresented in the mainstream media. We need your financial support to help us achieve this mission. By donating today, you'll help us to continue providing access to training and equipment for over 300 volunteers, produce over 140 hours of original programming in over 10 languages. We strive to provide programming that does not discriminate against people on the grounds of sex, race, age, class, ability, orientation, or anything else. Since 1975, we have celebrated the rich cultural diversity of the Greater Vancouver area through our arts, our music, and spoken word programming. Donate today by visiting coopradio.org
or calling 604-684-8494.
Tune in to Late Night with Savages every Wednesday from 11 to midnight. Join your host, Colleen Jules, and her series of red-blooded radio broadcasters as we enjoy experimental spoken word performances, late-night tea parties, updates from frontline workers, and fresh poetic and musical savagery. Tune in as we decolonize the airwaves every Wednesday from 11 to midnight. Late Night with Savages on Vancouver Co-op Radio.
If you want to listen to us anywhere you travel, you can go into your Google Play Store and then download the Radio Player Canada app, and you can listen to your favorite radio station, Co-op Radio CFRO 100.5 FM.
Hi, I'm Gennaro Sullivan.
And I'm Woody Morrison.
Join us every Monday from 1 to 2:30 p.m.
on When Spirit Whispers, the First Nations program.
We cover truth and reconciliation,
art, music, politics, current and cultural events.
Give us a call, 604-684-7561. Don't forget to join us every Monday from 1 to 2:30 p.m. on When Spirit Whispers.
I'm like a motherless child.
Jimmy's Breakdown, JJ LaValle. Let's chair dance. That song was dedicated to his grandfather, Jimmy LaValle. JJ LaValle wrote that song, and yeah, just love it. Every time I play it, it just makes me want to get up and chair dance. Or sit and chair dance, whatever how you want to do it. We're back. Well, I thank you guys for joining me on Metis Matters Radio and the CFRO 100.5 FM. And if you ever want to find more recordings and programs you haven't heard from me lately, you can always go to coopradio.org and you can go and download the archives. We're also going to be actually setting up on Spreaker, so that's also going to be happening too quite soon. Or actually, for me, it will be very soon. So we're going to keep on just going to the next thing. So another editorial today that I want to share with you before we call it a night, and that is the Crown Indigenous Minister Carolyn Bennett's office is a toxic workplace. Ex-staffers claim. Now they say, Bennett says that she has always focused on creating an inclusive environment, and the Indigenous employees were regularly sidelined by a toxic working environment in the office of the Crown Indigenous Relations Minister, Carolyn Bennett, but their complaints fell on deaf ears. Really? Several former staffers have told CBC News. Now, at least one verbal complaint about the workplace environment was brought to the minister herself, while a separate verbal complaint went to her chief of staff, Sarah Welsh. Said former staff members, her verbal complaints also went to the officials in the Prime Minister's office, but they resulted in a no action according to the former staffers. Now, Bennett ultimately, The buck stops there. Didn't want to hear about it, said one former ministerial staffer. The CBC's news spoke with more than a half a dozen Indigenous and non-Indigenous former staffers who worked in Bennett's office at various points between 2016 and 2020. Now, the CBC News agreed to keep their identities confidential because they fear possible workplace repercussions. The office was very toxic, said one former ministerial staffer, that affected the ability of the office to really move things. It could be toxic, and people, some good people could don't stay for toxic. Okay, confusing. Former staffers said Indigenous employees in Bennett's office were marginalized and that their views were regularly dismissed, and they were often cut out of important decisions on their files. That's nothing new. Bennett's tenure in an Indigenous affairs portfolio is the second longest of any federal minister since 1966. When the Indian Affairs became a standalone department, Bennett entered cabinet after establishing herself on the Indigenous file through her advocacy on Indigenous rights during the cross-country Idle No More movement between the late 2012 and early 2013. Well, I was part of that. She was appointed Indigenous Affairs Minister in November 2015 and became Crown Indigenous Relations, the CRNA Minister, on August 7, 2017, when the department was split into two. Now, some of the former staffers said that they believe that Bennett cared deep down about Indigenous people. They said that she wanted to execute transformational change, but paternalism and a dysfunctional office environment got in the way of progress. Now, she is very convinced what the solution is, and she has the right way of doing things and looks down on anyone that doesn't see it her way, said one former staffer. Former staffers said that Bennett had pet issues, such as the still unfinished project turning the old U.S. Embassy across from Parliament Hill into an Indigenous embassy, and gave her staff a free hand to deal with most files. But this freedom allowed toxic behavior to run unchecked, said former staff members. Now, the former staffers described a clannish, dysfunctional, and often chaotic work environment revolving around a tight inner circle of Bennett's trusted and confidants who played favorites with mostly non-Indigenous staff. One former staffer alleged an Indigenous staff member is objectively on issues related to missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls was questioned by Welsh. Another former employee said an Indigenous staffer was told by Emmeline English, a policy advisor later promoted to director of policy, that her people should get over and move on from atrocities committed by Canada against Indigenous people. The same Indigenous employee was also told by English that discussing a murdered relative during an internal meeting on missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls was not warranted, said the former staffer who attended the meeting. Now, these issues were brought to Welsh, but she refused to discuss them, said former staffers. Now, the matter was taken to an official in the Prime Minister's office who also failed to address them, and former staffers said. English did not respond to requests for comments sent through direct messages on social media and to an email address. Now, the former staffers said a separate complaint about the alleged toxic environment in Bennett's office was brought verbally to the PMO, but it is resulted in no action. Now, the former staffers said the unconscious bias of Bennett's inner circle and its refusal to listen to the views of Indigenous staff led the office to lose track of the political realities on the ground in Indigenous communities. That allowed the office to be caught off guard by the First Nation protests that swept the nation in the winter of 2020 over the construction of the natural gas pipeline in BC, and the former staffers said, now, I don't know how much of the issues over the years have been a result of the minister, but her competency versus the people she has had around her, said the one former staffer. Another former staffer said that the failure to listen to the Indigenous employees led Bennett into an embarrassing gaffe in 2018 during the election of the National Chief of Assembly of First Nations in Vancouver. Welsh was told by the Indigenous employee that Bennett should not appear at the Vancouver Convention Centre, where the vote was being held until after the Chiefs had selected the new head of the AFN, according to the former staff member. Now, but Bennett did show up and met with Alberta Chiefs on the morning of the vote, which was won by Perry Bellegarde. That was something, folks, that I know about it because I was there. That led to claims that 3 of the 4 candidates that the minister was meddling in internal politics at the AFN. She was. Yeah, okay, that's a different story. Bennett was forced to acknowledge the controversy in his speech to the AFN chiefs after the election. Former staffers said Bennett overestimated her relationship with the First Nation leaders and relied too much on Bellegarde. When it came to making decisions such as choosing people for appointments, when staff raised concerns about the minister's reliance on the AFN, they were cut out of files, said former staff members. Now, if you were a favorite of the minister, your policy files got pushed ahead to the front of the line, and if you weren't, they were just kind of sidetracked or kept out, said one former staffer. Now, Bennett also took outside criticism from some Indigenous advocates, personally, said former staff members. Cindy Blackstock, who heads the First Nations Child and Family Caring Society, has been a persistent critic of the federal government's ongoing challenge of the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal order to compensate First Nations children taken into the children welfare system. Several former staffers said that Bennett often griped about Blackstock, claiming the First Nations child advocate was only doing it for her ego. Former staffers said Bennett frequently complained about former Attorney General Jody Wilson-Raybould, a former Indigenous Services Minister Jane Philpott. To me, it seemed it was a competition that Bennett had to be better, said one former staff member. She cannot stand Jody Wilson-Raybould. She saw Jody as a threat. Well, I can guarantee that. Jody is a threat. Bennett said that she had the utmost respect for Blackstock and Wilson-Raybould. It has been an honor to work with them on critically important files such as Indigenous child welfare reform, the information of Indigenous rights, and advancing the self-determination of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples in Canada. The minister said in an email statement, Bennett and Wilson-Raybould clashed internally over the direction of the signature government promise on Indigenous rights announced by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on Valentine's Day in 2018. Bennett ended up leading the file to implement the Indigenous Rights and Reconciliation Framework, which would be incorporated Section 35 of the Constitution, which affirms Indigenous rights into other aspects of federal law. However, Bennett's department mishandled consultation on the framework, which was roundly rejected by the First Nations leaders and later scrapped by the federal government. The concept of the framework was developed by Wilson-Raybould before she entered federal politics, and Wilson-Raybould and Philpott ended up leaving the Liberal cabinet in the wake of the SNC-Lavalin scandal. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, CBC News sent Bennett and Welsh a list of detailed questions about the allegations. In the statement that she sent to CBC News, Bennett said she has always focused on creating an inclusive government environment that respected all voices on her team. It has been imperative to me that the voices of Indigenous members of our team are heard. I am very concerned that any former staff would feel they are not an integral part of our team or that their perspectives are not valued. I'm very grateful to the team of Indigenous and non-Indigenous people in my office, Bennett's statement. Bennett also said that time human resources issues surfaced in her office. They were taken seriously and dealt with expeditiously through dismissal at least one case. Now, the PMO would not comment on the record, but a senior government source told the CBC News PMO officials have no record of receiving complaints about Bennett's office. Really? According to former staffers, at least 11 Indigenous people have entered and left Bennett's office since that she has handled the Indigenous Affairs portfolio, which turned into her current role at the CIRNA after the department was split in two in 2017. When I got there, I quickly realized I was a token, said one former staffer. I was there to attend events with her so that she had a First Nation staffer with her, and she wasn't just bringing her white staff. Her voice was never heard. My voice was never heard. My experience never mattered, it seemed, because they were white and they had been to a First Nation community and they knew more. So they had better knowledge. Okay. So actually, stories written by George Barrera, reporter for this. This is interesting. Okay. So like I said, folks, now you know it's the internal not getting along. 11 staffers. Let's put it this way. I've never heard of any 11 staffers not getting along with, well, I guess you'd say anything to do with government. Yeah, it's possible. Anyways, folks, thank you guys for joining me in Metis Matters Radio, and I'll be loving and leaving you, but we're going to go out with Dallas Boyer, Big John McNeil, guys, and thank you guys for joining me on Metis Matters Radio. It's been a pleasure having you all here. Kwapitani na. Take care.